Mr. Moderator?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, since you've done other roles, I was wondering if you can do Hawkman.
Hawkman. Sure.
I didn't know you were going to be here as Hawkman.
Well, yeah, no. Well, Hawkman, there's an interesting story with Hawkman, and I frequently tell it. I don't know if you guys know, I was involved with a show called Digimon. Played a bunch of different characters. I played Hawkman, who was, my career, I had a couple of different guys that had toys, and I can remember the day I first got my first Diabolico and went, meant to be. Hawkman was another one where I did Hawkman was sort of along the lines of, Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's where Hawkman kind of came from. But I went into a store and they had a talking Hawkman doll. And I'm thinking, those weasels. Those weasels stole my voice for a talking doll. I don't believe this. How cheap can they get? Those blankety blank, 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 blank. And they had the little, touch the arm and test the voice. And it's like, I said, Hawkman Digivolve 2! And I go up to it and I pull the little lever. Hawkman Digivolve 2! Those weasels, they didn't even steal my voice. I can't believe it. How horrible is that? They didn't even steal my voice. How cheap are they? They didn't even get a decent impression. So they're just pleasing some of us. But the last little bit is, the character I'm probably most famous for is I played a character called Optimus Prime on a show called Transformers. So when it hit the internet that Optimus Prime was going to be played by Hawkman, people were not very happy. They thought it was going to be, Optimus Prime transform! So it's fun. I would tell you the things that they posted on the internet, but there are children here under 18, and I don't want to use that kind of language. But I took it as a challenge. It was great, So the line that I now use at Transformer conventions and stuff like that is, have no fear. Hawkman Digivolve 2 Optimus Prime. So now you got both of them. Sorry to take up your time, guys.
Next? Just because Farrah reminded me with this question. The whole Methadog-Elsa relationship.
Thank you. That's going to be my
question. That was interesting work to see you develop, because the two of you guys, when you were the evil characters, had this, they had a really good chemistry together. And then, but while she was in Principal Randall, though, they were started developing this whole thing with Dr. O. And then near the end of the series, they jumped back to you two again once they turned her good. Was that was there a story? How did that go about?
That's an excellent question. There are sometimes in the more complicated aspects of some of the Power Rangers scripts, they're not always fully thought out. And this is probably an example of that. But I was not happy with it not being fully thought out, and Mariama and I actually talked about that a couple times to our satisfaction, what that was about. As you probably know, Anton Mercer was not aware that he was Mesogog basically for the entire season. He didn't know that, but Mesogog was always aware of Anton Mercer. The thinking was that with Elsa and Mariama there was a similar thing going on. So Mesogog certainly knew about Principal Randall, and Elsa certainly did know, but Principal Randall didn't know about Elsa. So we off, in their normal life in Reefville or whatever, Reefside, right? Anton Mercer and Principal Randall did interact a couple of times, and those were the times when we sort of had a conversation saying, what's this about? Because I'm coming in to say, be a teacher now for you as the principal, and was this something that's been orchestrated by Mesogog, for example? So in my opinion, it was. So we had a relationship, certainly as Mesogog and Elsa, but as Principal Randall and Mercer, we did not. So I looked at them as sort of being pawns of Mesogog's whole plan. That he put them together and they met, but that relationship of, say, Mercer teaching for Principal Randall, he would not have recognized her as being anyone other than a weird principal. Yeah, but that's a good question, because that stuff was not well thought out, and that was a little bit of something that was sort of dropped in the storyline. It was just never really fleshed out. They just didn't think about it enough.
There's real kind of under-conceptual subtext in the relationship of Mesogog and Elsa. How much was on the page and how much did you and Mariama
Yeah, that's another excellent question. There was none on the page, in my opinion, but we at the very beginning did talk about that, and we had a few laughs backstage before one of the things, because there was. I think, that Elsa was attracted to power, and I think Elsa was genuinely attracted to Mesogog. And so was Mesogog. So we, on the first couple of shoots that we did, we sort of played that up. In fact, there were some great backstage moments that I would love to have had captured on film, where we did some variations of scenes differently than we were allowed to shoot them. not a lot differently, but with more of that innuendo. And you might remember there was one in particular where we did a scene and we walked out and we sort of went arm in arm and we held hands. That came from that. And so whoever that director was on that day, we had done something a little bit more extreme. And I said, we've been playing with this. I think we should. So we injected as much of that as we could. They were generally uncomfortable with that, but we always thought that would add to it. I always felt like that was something that should be in there. So that one scene is a good example of something that I tried to add. I just thought it made it more interesting and a little bit creepier.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
There's always that weird, was it consensual, like an act sport?
Right.
No,
No, she was raping him, if anything.
I'm only a few more minutes left.
I think this gentleman had a question right over there.
Well, one other thing I wanted to ask was with regards to the Elsa Mesogog relationship. Not too much was actually gone into with how Mesogog and Elsa came together. Did anything get formulated backstage as sort of a backstory between the two of them?
As far as how Elsa was sort of hired by Mesogog to work? No, that was not in the script, but again, my feeling was that because Mesogog had sort of appropriated a human in a way, and that Mercer was also a human, that he had sort of done that with another human. And I think Mesogog picked Principal Randall really in that respect to do that. So I think she was a real person who got mutated by Mesogog for those purposes. That would be my sort of backstory to that.